Hi, I'm Coach MK, founder of the Fitness Protection Program. I'm a run coach, not a life coach. We're never really talking about the running. Running is the tool. It's the conduit we use to examine the world we live in, as well as its impact on our own lives and the lives of the people around us. How we react to certain people and to certain stories tells us a lot about how we view ourselves. I'm committed to the thoughtful, intentional exploration of the importance of running so that no one discounts their own badassery, ever. Final note, this podcast is geared towards every runner who won't lose their home, livelihood, or health insurance if they show up to the corral with a hangover. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, just saying. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Fitness Protection Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and friends beyond the binary, it's time for the podcast. Ask Away with Coach MK and Coach Sarah. This is the weekly roundup of questions from the training programs at fitnessprotection.com. That's www.fitnessprotection.com. We offer currently 2 programs. Maintain, for those who have a modicum of fitness that they would like to maintain or build upon, and Rebuild, which is targeted towards people who might have been sedentary for 6 months or longer and want to leverage muscle memory from previous days when they might have been fit sometime in the past. Let's leverage that muscle memory to get you back to where you want to go faster. Why in the world would you join a Couch 5K program if you're not new to running? You wouldn't, which is why so many people jump in the deep end of the pool and get hurt. Rebuild is a great place to ease your way back in, and we can get you ready for anywhere you want to go. Third program that will be opening up, beta form, hopefully, God willing, on August the 1st, is Runner Interrupted, a support program designed to get runners over the hump, no matter how long that hump may be. God knows I did not plan to be in bed for 18 months, but now that I'm out, I have no intention of getting back in, and I have no intention of letting anyone suffer or walk through that period alone, because nothing in this world hurts more than not being able to run. An unsatisfactory run is still better than not being able to do it at all. And if that's where you are, email info@coachedandloved.com with Runner Interrupted Beta in the subject line. We will add you to the beta, and once we are ready to launch, we will let you know. With that, it's time for the podcast. Let's answer the questions burning in the hearts and minds of all my clients across the country. Yay.
Yay. Rebuild or maintain first?
You pick.
All right, let's do Rebuild, since we were just talking about how amazing Rebuild is. All right, question number 1. We only have 2 questions in Rebuild tonight, so we will close this form to new questions. And I'm going to be posting a link to this on the Facebook page tomorrow. We are also going to be airing a podcast version of this. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat in Facebook. I am always happy to answer follow-up questions. Please just make sure that you tag me, and I'll see your question and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Okay, Rebuild questions starting now. I do the majority of my running on a treadmill in the summer. Should I make any adjustments to the training and or settings on the treadmill? How I'll correlate it to what how will I correlate it?
I didn't hear anything you said because I was reading a Twitch comment, and I'm going to take my glasses off and not do that again until we get to that. I'm so sorry. So I was reading an amazing comment about how the autism is no longer referred to as a line or a spectrum, but rather a circle. And I'm like, it is genius.
Yes, I was going to draw your attention to that too. I thought that was really lovely too. The person who posted that is often in here on Twitch listening to us, and we love her.
And I love everything she does, FYI, to be really clear.
Totally ideal. All right, I'll read the question again.
Yes.
Okay. I do the majority of my running on a treadmill in the summer. Should I make any adjustments to the training and or settings on the treadmill? How will I correlate it to what I'll be able to do on the road? Thank you both for your time and the effort you are investing in this program.
Great. Yay, you're welcome. Thank you for being here and being patient. I know there's nothing, a few things in this world are as frustrating as not being where you want to be yet, but moving at the speed that we prescribe in Rebuild is going to get you where you want to go faster than overdoing it, having another setback, and then being back in the penalty box or the injury box for a while. So when it comes to being on the treadmill, I know that it gets a lot of hate, and I don't understand that. I really don't. If you have big goals and big expectations that have to do with performance, then you got to embrace all the training tools around. You don't get to say beet juice tastes and then have an opinion on it. You drink the beet juice. You don't get to have an opinion on working with a nutritionist. That's the work, and you have to do it, So in the same vein, the treadmill is a training tool, and you need to embrace that too. No one cares if you don't like it. The work don't need you to like it. It needs to get done. And if you have to get it done on a treadmill, do that. So I know that's not your point, but congratulations for adulting like a boss and just getting it done despite all of the hatred that tends to be piled on the treadmill. So I get that, it is seen as lesser, and I'm not really going anywhere. I'm like, but there's a bathroom right there, and there's a fan right there, and more water, and Queer Eye. You can get Netflix on a lot of these. It's not a bad thing. Find a way to this is it's not the worst second place ever. It's hardly a consolation prize. So what I care about is one that you find a way to have a good attitude towards it, a way to make it exciting. And for me right now, I was not excited about the Queer Eye reboot. I wasn't. I didn't like the first one because I watched a couple episodes and was like, I don't like feeling judged. I grew up in a really small town where everybody knew everybody's business. And I remember feeling like everyone's famous in a small town. Miranda Lambert had a really great song about it. And it's true, but there's just kind of no escaping it. There's kind of, when you're being judged or you're around people who do judge others or are really snarky, I get this cringy feeling and I kind of back away from it with my hands in the air. And I've resisted the reboot now for 2 years, or how long has it been out?
I don't know, a year and a half, something like that. Yeah.
The way it was presented to me was like, oh, the new Queer Eye reboot is really amazing. It's like a big warm hug at a time you don't need a hug. And I'm like, I don't know. It never rang true with me. But right now, all I want to do is get through this so I can go back and watch more Queer Eye. And if you have an hour of I might do my run on a treadmill tomorrow just so I can get another hour of Queer Eye in. I'm like, this is because it's a visual experience. I want to sit down. And I mean, yes, we can cut this into a podcast, and you don't really need to see me with my hair and my bad skin and the things that don't match. I try to make it pretty with some earrings and a necklace for y'all. But generally speaking, both things can be consumed in audio form while you do something else. You need your world to stop while you consume Jonathan Von Ness. Oh my God, he's amazing. I just want to watch him and Tan. If they had a reality show that was just them, if they had a Twitch stream where it's just them doing things, living life, I would never turn that off. And so I tell you that to tell you this, if you can get that excited about something and be like, hey, you know what? I can do that on the treadmill. And there might not be another opportunity to be in front of Queer Eye on Netflix for an hour. Then awesome. Congratulations. We just found a way to make that treadmill palatable. If you are living in a place where this is going to be your summer and there just aren't enough episodes of Queer Eye to get you all the way through it, then what we need to do is change the setting that matters. And I know this feels like a really long answer, but I'm sure that there are some people that are going to be listening that are just like, oh, she said treadmill. Don't ever say that word to me unless you want a full MK experience in your response, because you know what? Having a bad attitude towards it isn't going to help your cause at all. Set that treadmill at minimum 1%. If you're doing a hill, if you want to simulate a hill at some point, if you're going to be there for your long run, I get it. Great. Let it go up to 3%. Anything greater than 3% is really hard to navigate in a car and is not commonly found in road races where marathons tend to be. So making the hills harder is not necessarily better if you know for sure that your next race is a road 5K, 10K, half or full. Okay. If you're a trail runner, it's a whole different set of parameters. I would have to be like, well, I need to know more about the race. I need to know about what it is you think you want to do next and how badly you care. It's just a whole different scenario, but I'm going to operate on the assumption that you're a road runner. And if you're a road runner, then how that's going to, if you're having, and this is your everyday, and you're looking at this for the duration of the summer, great. Start at 1%. When that starts to feel a little easy, kick it up to 1.5%, and you don't need it to go any further than that. Reason being, you're going to feel like you're flying when you get back on the road, and you're going to love it. Unless you're in 85 degrees at 8 a.m. with 92% humidity. That's going to suck. But if you run out of Queer Eye to watch and you just like, it's not worth being here if I can't watch JVN, I get that. That is how I feel about the treadmill. Those are the two adjustments I would make.
Well, MK, I don't know if you really covered that adequately. I think I might have to. No, I'm just kidding. I think you said it perfectly, and I just want to echo that if you are going inside and getting your runs done inside because that's how you get them done, then you're awesome, and I love you for doing that.
Absolutely.
And you are absolutely doing the work. So don't worry that your work is lesser, because it is not. Second question also has to do with heat and treadmills. So let's jump right into it. It's summer in Texas. I spent more of my avocado toast this week walking than running. I'm usually good with this because it's ridiculous outside. The only time I am not is when I wistfully think of a half marathon in 26 weeks. I'm nervous about building up enough sustained shuffling time when it's time to jump up to maintain for that event. I do treadmills mostly during the week, but my dog needs a long exercise on weekends.
So there are a couple of things to unpack here. If you're in rebuild is not enough running to segue into a half marathon program. And the reason for that is we don't want to, and the reason I discourage it, it's not that I don't think you can, it's that I really am not sure you oughta. We're so... This is not a culture, not to go all like 80-year-old woman on you, like my day. This is not a culture that celebrates small victories. This is a culture that's like couch to Leadville, 0 to 70, trying to get more for less on the regular. Mm-hmm. And we're going to max that out at some point. And I feel like we're already past it. Couch to Marathon makes most coaches that I encounter and consider to be not just credible, but like, you have my attention when you speak. These people hate Couch to Marathon, hate it. I think I accept, and they really don't like that I've written plans for that. And I'm a bit more of a realist. I accept that it happens. And I see my job as first do no harm. If you're going to do this thing, let me get you there as safely as possible. At the same time, I'm purposely not advertising a Couch to Marathon plan, and I never will. What I will say is if you're going to do this, I'm going to design a plan where we're not going to have a conversation about whether or not you're fit enough to embark on this adventure. I'm just going to set a framework where you kind of have to be before I'll let you have my plan. And if you want to go somewhere else and make that choice, that is up to you. I can sleep at night and face these coaches. The worst they can say is like, oh, wow, you wrote a really basic plan. This is terrible. I'm like, but it's safe. And my people can do it, and they can log all these miles over and over. It's kind of a miracle. And if miraculous is what you're looking for, then I made a miracle happen. So that's not far off the reservation. But I need you to understand the why here. No one really wants to be in rebuild. I take that back. I think rebuild is a wonderful option, and I'm sure people are so glad that it exists. But runners, and that's what I wanted to do. But generally speaking, runners want to run. And most of the runners I encounter want to race. And when you're coming back and you're in that mentality of I'm working my way back to a place where back is, that's called the baseline, right? Where you think you were when you got injured in the first place is where most people want to get. And we're in such a rush to get there as though we can circumvent these biological processes and heal faster. That the last thing I would want you to do is come here to this new paradigm I've set up and make the same choices you've always made. So to that end, I'm less concerned about the shuffling, and I'm more concerned about why you're in rebuild in the first place. So it's not that it's the wrong question. Is 20 weeks enough time? Because on the surface, here's what you're asking, right? Is 26 weeks enough time to get ready for half? Sure. That's an absurdly long half. No one would buy that half marathon training plan. No one. You couldn't sell that. That's like longer than a lot of ultra plans. At the same time, that when you're talking about the plan, we're not talking about you. And I established fitness protection so that we could talk about nothing but you all the time. Do you think that you are going to be ready to train for a race? Think about what brought you here. If you're here because you're coming back from injury, that's one thing. If you're here because your life as it stands right now doesn't allow for more bandwidth to participate fully and maintain, it seems like too much, that is a different question, and only you can really answer that. Am I scared at the notion of you doing a half marathon in 26 weeks? Not really. and I'm not worried about the walking that you're doing. I'm worried about so many other things. Like, what would your expectations be as we enter the 6-week lead? Because, like I've said before, you need like at least 3 months of consistent running and maintain before I'll let you use a 10-week marathon plan.
Right.
Or 2 to 3, realistically 2, preferably 3 months for a 10-week marathon plan. And the same goes for that half plan, which is only 6 weeks long. So, yes,
actually,
more than enough time.
Huh? Let me just, I just want to, the question asker is actually with us here on Twitch, and she's saying, I'm planning on bumping up to maintain in August or September for a December half. How much sustained shuffling do I need to have under my belt before I get there? And I assume that by get there, she means before she can bump up to maintain in August or September.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. Okay.
The question is really about, do you feel like you're ready for more work? And if you do feel like you can handle more work, that you have the bandwidth for more work. And if the answer is yes, shoot, yeah, head on over to maintain. I don't need you to be jogging briskly with no walking ever in any of my programs. That's not how it works. But this is not the first time the implicit question is, can I go over to maintain if I'm still shuffling? And I'm like, I don't care. What I care about is making sure, like, I can't guarantee any outcomes in that half. So that's a different scenario. Yes, I think you can be ready to execute and go the distance. I think we can be ready for really cool things come December if we can manage to keep you on track and not getting hurt and mentally okay with where you are right now. What I can't do is promise that, like, if I spend X amount of time here and the next amount of time here, will I be able to do better than I did time last year? And I'm like,
right.
I don't, that's a very different question. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but I promise it'll have very little, the answer to that will have very little to do with how much time you spend walking in the summer.
Right. Yeah. Summer is going to mean walking, and that does not mean that you're behind or anything like that.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's what we have for rebuild. Should we move on to maintain?
Yes.
Okay. Maintain. Question 1. Hey, batter, swing batter. That is also what I think of every time we do this workout, aka the hammer. In the swing workout.
Yay.
Yay. Love that movie. In the swing workout, our rest is active recovery. Is the rest for the hammer active recovery or actual rest? Thanks for all you do, Coach MK and Coach Sarah.
It's active recovery. It's kind of a joke. When you see rest, it's very tongue in cheek, like rest.
When it says you may lie down.
Yeah, it means like, so Amy Nicole just joined. I don't know. Oh, she didn't know. Sorry. Oh man, my vision is terrible. Jesus. I did not make that up. Amy Nicole, do you remember when we were on the track when I taught you guys how to float and we talked about active recovery, and the day that I told you guys, okay, now for this workout, you can lie down. What was like what was that like? Those hammer workouts are horrifying. They're really hard. And what makes them hard is not that you're going faster, it's that we're taking that recovery time away. So when we get to the hammer interval, yeah, I don't really care. Like, you do what you need to do to rest. People were lying on the ground and like moaning, like, like puppies that have been shot in the foot. And that's, but they also did that after side planks too. So, I mean, that was a really eye-opening moment for me. I'm like, really, side planks are this bad? I mean, it was a terrible workout day where people were like, what have you done? And I'm like, I didn't think it was that bad. But I thought what we did last week was way worse. All that to say, I really kind of don't care what you do to recover. A hammer is hard. And if you're like, I really need to lie down, then, you have the permission to do that. You can swing that bat as hard as you want to, but this is what I need you to get out of that is to get up and do it all again after that hammer interval, which is going to feel like I hit you in the face with a hammer.
Yay.
And if you need to lie down to recover from that, that's fine.
Don't you want to come train with us? It's so much fun. Yay.
Right? How am I characterized by the easy effort runs? Like, oh, she's one plan. I wrote one plan that was nothing but easy effort runs and accelerators. And somehow, like, I am that, all the bad choices I've made in my life. And somehow I'm not associated or identified by those. I'm identified with one training plan. It's kind of a satisfying thing.
Oh, that reminds me of a really inappropriate joke that I'll tell you offline.
I think you might need to put it in the Facebook groups tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right. I can do that. Yeah, that sounds good. It was like one of the first dirty jokes anyone ever told me from camp when I was 13. And I was like, oh my God, you can tell jokes like this. This is a thing. Yeah.
That's well, I just watched the episode of Queer Guy where they went to they took care of the camp director. And have you watched that yet?
We watched the first episode, and I completely agree with you. It is so different from the original. It's very kind and loving. And, and my husband and I were both like, wow, we really admire this. And also like, no, this is not going to make it into our rotation. It's just not our type of thing, but I see and appreciate it.
I didn't think it was mine either until I saw something with Jonathan Van Ness that popped up in my Facebook feed, and I was like, oh, he's adorable. And then I'm like, oh. And then it is like one gigantic warm hug watching these guys interact. I'm like, I don't think I've ever had friendship like that. Really magic. Like My Little Pony in real life. Anyway, so they just took care of a camp director in the next episode that you didn't get to yet. It's super cool. So when you make the camp references, my head is going to, JVN and his amazing mustache.
All right. Well, now I'm going to have to go watch it, I guess, because that does intrigue me.
Well, Tan was walking with a little girl, and she was like, where are you from? And he's like, have you heard of the Queen? I'm where she's from.
I love that answer.
Different type of queen. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just amazing. Amazing.
Anyway. Oh, good. All right. I'm adding it to my list. I'm telling the joke in the Facebook groups tomorrow. I'll have to remember all of the good parts. All right. Next question. When figuring out our 5K, 10K paces, etc., what easy effort pace should we base it on? Is it an average of your easy effort pace over the course of a run? We don't do a lot of straight ezy effort runs on Maintain, so it's hard to determine. Thanks.
What do you think? How do you think I'm going to answer that, Sarah?
Yep. Just yes, basically. I mean, it's a lot of times when people ask questions, they give me like a multiple choice, and I know that they're doing it because they don't want to like overtax me. They want to like help me by supplying the answer a little bit.
They also want to show you that they thought it out.
Yes, exactly, and that they've been listening. And usually they're on the right track. They already know what the answer is, and I could just say, "Yep." And I kind of think this is the answer to this one. Yes, it is an average of your easy effort pace over the course of a run, but B, like, don't overthink it. It's hard to do it too wrong. Is that about right?
Yeah, I would go with C. I don't really care because it doesn't physiologically, the outcome doesn't really matter. What matters is this, that it makes that you like it, right? Because the difference between, all right, so we're not machines, right? I'm not even a machine. If you go and look through my Strava, and granted I haven't run in a couple of days, but if you want to look through my Strava, right, my easy effort pace can swing pretty wildly. Some days it'll be 11, other days it'll be like 14. A couple of days in a row, I had like really amazing 9-minute miles because it was cold and 5 a.m.
Woo! I've still never had any of those at Easy Effort.
I don't know. You're pretty efficient at Easy Effort. I remember running with you in Boston and being like, "Oh, she's so fit. Fuck her." So,
are you kidding me? Yeah. I was thinking the same thing about you.
You were just chatting, and I'm like,
my heart rate was pretty high both days. You were at sea level. You were cruising.
It was fun. Oh my gosh,
it's fun. You have to come again.
No, we need to get you out here. I mean, I love Boston. It's traveling with all my kids and all that. That's just hard.
That's fair.
It's so hard.
Yes. Ugh. Yes. And I actually have family in Denver that would love to hang out with Roz while I go running with you. So we'll do it someday.
Do it. Yeah. Do it. But back to your question, so we can have like lots of wide swings in your easy effort pace. But the exactness here doesn't really matter. I give you what I will give you is permission. So let's say the best long run or the best run you've had in a while is a 10-minute mile. Use that.
See what happens. And if it's like completely unsustainable, then you get to be like, hey, that was completely unsustainable. Let's maybe back it off a little bit next week.
Yeah, because it's not like we're testing your fitness and it's a test that you can pass or fail. I want you to have fun with your body. I want you to love what your body can do. And I don't want you to be afraid all the time. or feel bad all the time. I want to give you this type of structure that keeps you moving, but gives you the opportunity to totally beat yourself up if that's really what you want to do. And you might find, you know what, I don't really want to do that at all, ever. Or, hey, that felt good and I survived it. Maybe I'll do that again later. So it's really more about, what do you need to get right now? If you are not feeling really great and you just need a hard workout and you think that's going to make you feel good, then you go do that. Yay for self-awareness. If you're like, you know what, I was injured not too long ago and I have been doing things really conservatively, but I'm not really ready to up the ante yet. So, but I feel like I should be pushing myself harder. It's shaming to live in the should. Giving you permission to opt backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should, never would. Should, never should have happened.
That's right. No, I love that answer. I love that it's, you get to do avocado toast if you want to. You also get to go to the track and really like play around with these paces. And if it's a little too easy one week, then try notching your zones down next week. I posted a video, by the way, in the Facebook group showing people how to program these workouts into Polar Flow. If you use Polar Flow and you go to the announcements section of your Facebook group, I did a little screencast thingy. Because Polar Flow is not super intuitive with how you do that. But part of what I end up doing is kind of resetting my zones, my pace zones that I'm using in those workouts. Like every month, depending on what the workout is, I kind of need to be working with different pace zones. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But the point is that like they end up moving around a little bit, because sometimes I know I'm going to be doing these workouts on a track. That means I'm going to be a little bit faster. Sometimes I know that the track's not going to happen because it's snow and they don't clean the snow off the track near me. So I'm going to be on the bike path and it's going to be more uneven and I'm not going to be going as fast. And so, there's a lot of freedom to get what you need to get on the days where you have permission to run hard. Because
it's not like we're not being totally nihilistic. You can do whatever you want all the time and have all the results. It's like, we're not in a focused, super concentrated time. This is the time to play. This is the time to do the stuff that you want to do, and in a reasonably consequence-free zone. People don't get overuse injuries like shin splints or stress fractures or the really crazy stuff. You don't get overtrained and burn out and broken from one workout where you play with the math and round everything up. You just don't. You get hurt from the big injuries to things that are going to put you out for a long time by doing that making those types of choices and rounding up every single day and pushing that line upwards every single day and not listening to your body and saying, hey, you know what? My joints hurt, my hips hurt, my back hurts. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm really, really hungry. Maybe I should back it off today.
And we give you, I think, a lot of really good frameworks for making good decisions and really encourage you to make the choice that is going to respect your body and what it needs.
Yikes.
This next question is also about faster paces. Can you please give me some tips on what it should feel or look like form-wise when maintaining 5K pace? Do we increase our cadence or our stride? My 5K pace based on easy effort is something between 6:15 and 6:45. Problem is holding anything faster than a 7-minute mile and my form goes to shit. I become Phoebe from Friends. Am I better off staying at a 7-minute mile pace? Thanks.
Yeah. It depends on what you need to get. If you want to stay at a 7-minute mile pace, cool, you can. So there you have permission. But what I would do, your form changes a lot. Remember in the past, I've said that there are some inflection points. So inflection point 1 is when when your easy effort pace, your pace at 140 drops below a 9-minute mile. And the next time it drops is when it goes below a 7. So it sounds like you're already kind of at that pivotal point where the world starts to change a lot and strength is no longer really optional. And I say this again kindly and lovingly. Maybe you're doing all the strength and that's awesome, but you're going to need a little bit more than that. One, I would definitely see a physical therapist, one that you trust, one that's going to listen to you, or at least one that's going to let you push him around a little bit. And God knows I pushed Alex Lanton to his limit more than once. Even of his patience, where I'm like, all right, what else can I do? What more can I do? What more can I do? What else can I do? All right, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? What can we do? And he's just like, bah. So to that end, if you walk, like, I know a lot of, we're kind of bred to be compliant, but you really got to advocate for yourself. You will get a better outcome in all of these scenarios and situations when you walk in and say, hey, I'm efficient here. That efficiency falls apart. My coach says it's probably strength, because remember, form is a function of strength. So if you feel like you're falling apart at these faster paces, you are, because you lack the strength to hold your body together while you get there and sustain them. So rather than trying to like force yourself through these workouts, for now, I would, at least for the rest of this month and maybe for next month too, and then we'll come back and try after like a good concentrated 6 weeks of increased strength. Then we can come back and try more and try these paces again when we're a little more confident that you can hold on to them. But there are two, the only cue that I would give you when it comes to that particular change is this: strike from the hip. And I know that sounds weird, but I would say next time you're near a track or you're on a run, do your warm up. That cue does not work, by the way, on an easy effort run. It works when you're moving so fast it kind of feels like you're about to fall apart like Gumby. At that point, what you focus on is like, you want your foot to fall right underneath your hip. But if you're counting steps, if you're trying to consciously take slower steps, those cues don't usually lead to the desired outcome. It's one of the reasons why you don't hear about Chi running anymore, or Chi running. And which is not to say it's bad and it doesn't work. It's just, what is a sustainable coaching cue and what is not. So cue that tends to get the best out of my athletes when I'm at the track yelling at them or looking at them is strike from the hip. And in order to do that, where you feel like your center of gravity is straight up and down, if anything, leaning back a little bit, not much. If you're like, am I leaning back far enough? Then I promise you're looking at it wrong. What we want to do is keep your center of gravity right on top of your hips, right on top of your feet as you move forward. Your cage has to be locked. All of the force that's holding you together is really going to feel like it's coming from in between your hip bones, which is an odd thing to say. But when you're really standing up straight and your TVA is engaged and it's pulling in a little bit, that is where the power comes from. So strike from the hip, which again is right beneath that center of gravity. And once you start thinking about that, like trying to keep your feet underneath your hips, and only while you're moving that fast, trying to sustain 5K pace or faster at a pace that is under a 7-minute mile, then that cue should make sense and should help a little bit, but it takes a while to get the hang of it. And I know that's a much more esoteric answer than you would like, but even if I was standing next to you at the track, I could be like, unless I had a drone going, you wouldn't be able to visualize it or see it while I do it, so that you could imitate it. This is kind of where you go by feel.
That actually, that sounds, it does sound like sort of abstract and hard to execute and hard to think about, but it sounds like something that will be really cool to try. You'll have to let us know.
When you're there and you're in the zone and you're fit enough to sustain it, it's an amazing feeling, because it's like two little pistons underneath you kind of while you go forward. And it's not like this lean where you're working really hard and your arms are in it. It's just like, it's very smooth. It's a very smooth, like you're when you're standing so straight and you're going so fast, you're barely moving your arms. And when you kind of lock into it, you realize that you look like the people at the front of a race from the last time you watched a major race on TV. Like they barely look like they're floating. They're not huge steps. They're not moving their arms very much. And they're all standing up straight. And it's like Donnie Darko. Something is just kind of pulling them forward from right down there. And that's what strike from the hip is supposed to get you doing. But it's all about like little pistons tapping down as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Tell us how it goes. I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. I'm struggling right now. Just when I think I have things under control, my post-hip tendonitis acts up again. I had wanted to get into the full maintain schedule for July and was possibly looking forward to another marathon in late fall, but now I'm not sure. Sometimes I think I'm just trying too hard or expecting too much. I'm hoping that
Don't rule it out.
Okay. Do you want me to keep reading? Oh, I'm hoping that a relaxing week in Florida with my mom will help me reset. Not sure what my question is, but I'm just wondering if maybe I even need a break from maintain while my body figures out what's going on.
So first we're going to go to Florida and we're going to give yourself some grace. But before we do that, before we start changing the fall plans, we're going to make two very small adjustments. Number one, we're going to look at our running shoes and think about maybe adding a little support in there. I know that post-hip tendonitis is something that I dealt with for a couple of years. And the word that if it was going to be like your guiding star helping you make, or your Jiminy Cricket helping you make good decisions, the line you don't want to cross, the thing you never, ever, ever want to hear your PT say is chronic tendinopathy. What we want to do is live our life as runners so that we never develop a chronic tendinopathy. And post-hip tendonitis is one of those things that keeps coming back. And we be like, oh, it's an overuse injury. Oh, I need to stop doing this thing that caused the aforementioned overuse injury. When the real answer is more like you lack hip strength. That's where this is coming from, and or you're in the wrong shoes. Most of it, and there's nothing wrong. I say this not to denigrate the people in the shoe stores. They are awesome, and they are trained, and they see this stuff all the time. But what they've been trained to do is look at your foot strike and correct it. And part of the reason they do that, it is easier to sell anyone a shoe than it is to get them to do strength work across the board. People are like, I don't want more work. I don't have time for more work. I want a more supportive shoe. So since that's the answer most people want, that is the answer you're going to get out in the world unless you start a physical therapist office. So what's going on is not like, so there's not something so wrong with you. You're not broken, but you could be on a path to chronic tendinopathy, whether or not you stay and maintain and go to rebuild. You could develop a chronic tendinopathy if we're not taking care of these issues in rebuild. The first thing I would do if you have the time and the capacity and the bandwidth, I would go see a physical therapist. They'll probably try to see if you pass the chair test. And if you do pass the chair test and are still having chronic tendinopathy, they will know exactly what to do. Or you're having post-hip tendonitis, they will know exactly what to do. If you failed the chair test, they will still know what to do because they're physical therapists. And if they're not giving you very complete answers, if they're not giving you answers that are kind of worth the effort that you took to be there in their office, then you hear my voice in the back of your head saying, no, try again, earn my money and my insurance card. What do I do next? There is a path forward, and your physical therapist, preferably one with a doctor of physical therapy with the OCS certification, who is also licensed to practice dry needling and manual therapy. That can vary by state. Start with the OCS certification. DPT with the OCS certification should know exactly what to do in that situation. And if they don't, find another one. If they don't listen to you, find another one. We're living at a time when there are all kinds of PTs all over the place. Not to say they're perfectly replaceable, but if the first one doesn't listen, that person is replaceable. So don't write it off yet. Let's take a look at what's going on strength-wise to cause tendinopathy. No one has bad tendons. What they have are overworked muscles or underutilized muscles that are working inefficiently and stressing out major tendons needed to run. It's a fixable problem. So let's figure out exactly what's leading to it. It probably has something to do with glutes and hips. And I know runners are like, I'm so tired of hearing it. But once again, we live in a couch to marathon world where people don't read chapter 1 of any training book they ever buy. They buy the newest book on running, rip the training plan out, follow the training plan, and then complain when it doesn't work. That's what you did. But this is a step in the process. I want you to feel validated and know that it's not just you. This is such a common thing. It is such a common thing. This is why we have a program for it. So this is such a common thing that you hear it all the time because it is so common, but it doesn't mean we can afford to ignore it. So that's step 1. Also, while you're at the physical therapist office, we might need to have a more supportive shoe temporarily while we work on increasing the hip and glute strength. So what tends to happen is people are like, oh, I don't have strength here. They get the supportive shoe. That's a Band-Aid. It's not a solution. And so because we're not actually fixing what would have caused the chronic tendinopathy. So it'll help for a little while, but then the tendinitis is going to come back. And what we want is for that tendinitis to stay away forever and never develop into chronic tendinopathy, because that's going to, it's like a rubber band. Your tendons are like rubber bands. Once you've overstretched it, it's either broken or it's gone. It's never going to be elastic again, or the skin on my belly, it's never going to be tight again. And that's all right. But it's not all right if it impedes your running. So maybe we temporarily get into a slightly more supportive shoe. You remember those ass ugly shoes I had to wear when I was pregnant that Alex Lane put me into because he thought it'd be funny? and it was horrible, but they helped. I threw them away at the first opportunity I had. I don't want to say the brand name, so, well, you know what, fuck it, they don't pay me. Brooks Ghost. They were the Brooks Ghost. And that
I used to wear those.
But they're huge, and they have all this padding. It's everything I hate about a shoe was in this shoe, but it was the shoe that I needed. It had a super padded neck, and the neck of the shoe is where your foot goes in. And I hate padding around there. I want no upper. I want a big cushy, when I say cush, not like a pillow. I don't want it to be soft. But I love my ons because they absorb the shock from the ground, and they have like no uppers. I basically train in a racing flat year round. But I wasn't able to, I was too unfit. I didn't have the strength or the hip integrity to do that. So I had to go get a mid-range same support shoe. But so maybe the answer is a slightly more supportive shoe in the interim, because I only had to live in those shoes for about 8 weeks before I got back to where I am and where I wanted to be, with no uppers, no sides, and no back. So it's a combination of the two that's going to get you to where you want to be. But a shoe is a tool. Let's use it like a tool and not a crutch. And let's do that with the assistance of a DPT with OCS certification, preferably, if you can find it, they was also licensed to dry needling and manual therapy, because they will have all the tools necessary in the toolkit to make sure that particular tendinopathy never presents and becomes chronic.
And that is what we are going for. Have such a great time in Florida too. Really, really, really go soak in everything that Florida has to offer. I used to live there. I know that it has a lot to offer, even though it gets a bad rap sometimes for certain things about it. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. And enjoy the sun and sit on the beach.
Don't go crazy on the beach, though. I used to know people that would go to the beach and decide that they were, I heard this is really good training. And they would go running through the soft sand.
Don't run on the beach. Oh my God. I don't understand when people do that. It looks terrible and it's very hard.
I mean, it's one thing when you're running first thing in the morning on the packed line when the tide is low, on the packed wet sand. That's one thing. When you're running in the middle of the day on the loose sand everywhere where you can't get traction, that is a recipe, especially if you have something going on with your tendon. That's not going to make you stronger. That's the sort of really terrible advice non-runners or people that don't really know much about running will give people all the time and insist they do. No, just run on the beach. It's so good for you. No, just try this. Just go run on the beach. It's amazing. You're here. You're only no. That's a really good way to get hurt if you don't do it all the time.
Yeah, when I said go to the beach, I meant sit. I meant sit on the beach and lie down. Bring your book. That is Coach Sarah's advice. Sit on your ass as much as possible and enjoy every minute of it. All right, next question. Sarah asked me to post a question on breath. How to breathe during hard effort is at the top of the most valuable things I've learned from MK. It took a long time for it to click. I had to listen to the AMR podcast many months before the hard effort run started, and I understood the concepts, but not the application. Then I asked a question one day about feeling almost like I was having a panic attack when running at 5K pace, and MK said, that's when you shorten your breath cadence. And since then, everything has changed. So I thought it might be something others would benefit from hearing about again, as a fundamental, just like silly toes. Note, I still don't really get the army cadence thing. Baby steps, pun intended. That was Liz. I love you, Liz. Thank you for posting that question. Great idea. So yes, you are correct. When you are running at easy effort, you want to be breathing really, really steadily with 4 steps in, 4 steps out. And that stops working really fast as soon as you speed up your running. As soon as you are going any faster than that, I think it's sort of in the middle pace, half marathon pace. I don't know. I'm kind of halfway between a 4-step breathing and 2-step breathing. But when I'm in 10K and 5K pace, shortening the breath cadence is really important. Then you're going 2-step breathing, 2 steps in, 2 steps out. And that is really what keeps me anchored to those paces, honestly. When we were talking earlier about changes to your form and your stride when you're running faster, really all I'm thinking about when I'm running faster is my breath. And I use my breath to kind of speed up and my breath to kind of slow down. If I'm speeding up, I try and go, let me try and do it with the tapping in. With a big, powerful breath out on the 4th one. I'm saying this, and I don't know if you're even going to be able to hear it on the podcast the way I'm tapping on the computer or not. We'll see how that turns out. But it's a really effective. Oh yes, good, because I'm starting to circle the drain here.
I'm so sorry. I was I knew it was right here. Who's been in my books?
I'm let me run my mouth for another minute or two.
You were brilliant, though. I loved it. I'm man, she's just going. I love you.
So
when it comes to breathing, when you're going at those faster paces, your breathing is going to change. When I usually present it to my clients is Zen breathing, that 4-step.
There you go. That's the one.
If you cannot breathe, if you cannot take 4 steps on one completed inhale and get 4 steps out of an exhale, then you need to slow down. That's not easy effort. It's not a perfect proxy. I've watched people sort of like game it, and I'm like, yeah, you can't hold on to that for more than a few seconds before your heart rate starts to fly. You're depriving your body of oxygen. It feels like you're panting, and your brain's going to get the wrong signals, and that's exactly what happens. So when you're jogging, when you're going at that nice, easy effort, then that's what happens. That you are, if you're getting more steps than 4 per inhale. So if you're getting fewer steps than 4 on one full inhale and fewer steps than 4 on one full exhale, then you need to slow down. And that's a really frustrating thing for people to do. When it comes to anything like 10K pace, it's more of a, and you're going to feel more like a locomotive. A 5K pace, like very quickly starts like there. And I mean, it's not from the get-go, but it catches up really quickly. By the second rep or about 5 minutes into a 5K, that's when you really start to feel it. Everything's easy on fresh legs. Everything's easy when you start. It's how quickly does that oxygen deprivation start to catch up with you? And the answer is the faster you go, the faster it kicks in. There are 2 books that are they don't necessarily explain it more articulately than I do, and they're both really, really old. This is written in 1985, and it's been reprinted several times since. But Running and Breathing, and it just talks about not necessarily the mind-body connection, but more about the physiological limitations of what's happening during the breath and different breathing techniques that exist. It talks about like pranayama breathing, if you've ever taken if you've ever done that in at a party on a Friday night with people you probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. No, if you're doing that in a yoga class or usually in a hot yoga setting, that's the trick that they used to unclog your nostrils. There are lots of different breathing techniques that are discussed in this book, and they're kind of touched on in this book, Running Flow by Csikszentmihailyi. And I don't know that I would be like this one is a must read. But if the thing that I like about breathing and the reason that it matters, if you're one of those people that maybe had a miserable life and decided that like, hey, I feel good when I do yoga, I'm going to do more yoga. Maybe I'll become a yoga instructor, and then spent so much time in an ashram because you were just kind of miserable. Not that I have any idea what I'm talking about, because I did that in 2006, did not go through certification, but that was the very clear line of logic at the time. And when I learned, that was when I really learned to meditate. And meditating is powerful, and it's all about breathing. And you can meditate while you're lying down, standing up, and you can do it while you're moving. A moving meditation is pretty advanced. If you can't sit still and meditate for 5 minutes, you're going to have a really hard time doing it on the move. But between the breathing techniques in here and the meditation techniques in here, when you combine the two, you're going to, a lot of the things, if you just need more background to the way I do things and what I'm trying to articulate, then I would, here you go, good clear screenshot, get both of these books, and then you can start to put some of those concepts together in motion. But it is really hard to meditate when you're breathing harder and moving more quickly. What you can do is just focus on matching the breathing with the footfalls, and it doesn't distract from what you're doing. We never want to be so distracted. You're in the zone. You've got to be present what you're doing. It's like when people are working so hard that they can't think, that they're driving thoughts out. That's not really productive work for your mind or your body. It's just like standing in front of your child and screaming. They don't hear anything you say. Effectively, that's your central nervous system. It's the same thing. So learning how to sort of be in that moment and stay in that moment by matching the breathing with the footfalls at different effort levels, that is what leads to improved performance, if that's something you care about, on race day. But it all kind of starts with the on easy effort. For a recovery run, you should be able to get about 8 steps on the inhale. We're doing the grumpy cake. It's a hard run. And then anything from 10K pace is very quickly going to be. And then what I call locomotive breathing. Locomotive breathing is when you're just trying to get your ass around the tree. Everything is just kind of coming apart. But if you don't have control and you don't have a good pattern of breathing and footfalls, it is the wheels are coming off the wagon.
That's the kind of breathing you should be feeling when you can see the finish line in a 5K and you just got to get there. And
you're close to it.
And you're close. Yeah, that's right. You can see it and you're close to it. Not necessarily the same thing. Oh my God. Hey, well, do I know that?
I had a conversation with someone that was talking about Route 66 marathon, and not to denigrate it at all, but it is kind of my idea of hell. I'm sure it's a lovely city full of lovely people and a really amazing race. It's just when you think about things you enjoy doing and things you would never want to do again, different strokes for different folks. If this is your favorite race, great. I don't want to see the turnaround point from the start line, and I don't want to see the finish line from the turnaround point, because it's an optical illusion when you're in a place that flat and that unyielding, which is why Route 66 is mythical, amazing, and they have this race there. It doesn't feel like you're moving. This is where a treadmill is actually kind of cool. I would be like, mentally do a couple long runs on the treadmill. That is what it will feel like when you're racing Route 66 marathon, if that is not your usual backdrop for a run. It is so flat and it feels like you're just not getting any closer. And when the scenery isn't moving and you don't feel like you're getting closer, that can be really hard on your mind. There's a big, long, and for the Colfax Marathon here too, again, some people love this race. I really don't intend to do it again. It's a matter of taste. And that just has to do with the fact that when you're running on Colfax, there's this big, long stretch that's really super flat. And it feels like you're not moving, even though everything that's all the scenery next to you is changing because you're literally not standing in place. It is really hard to be like, that point, all I have to do is get there, but it's not getting any closer. That is amplified by being a Route 66 because what's next to you isn't moving either.
Well, I think I can probably skip both of those events and feel okay about it, because that sounds like it would torture me. Oh my God. Yeah, no locomotive breathing at the Route 66 marathon, guys. Note to self.
Well, people have asked me before, like, what do you think a really hard race is? I'm like, Route 66. Yeah. That's why. Mm-hmm. It's not about like what's the most technically challenging. I'm like, that is just a minefield. And and sometimes that is harder than like Big Sur running dead up a mountain or running on the cambered road where that's going to like tear your ankles to shreds.
All right. We got 3 more questions.
Let's do it.
I have a recovery R8 roller. Hurts so good. This is the roll recovery. What is your opinion, thoughts, suggestions, and or recommendations for using it? Go.
Do it everywhere. I keep one. I used to, back when I was fit in 2016, I kept one in my car at all times. I would usually kind of pin it to one of my thighs while I drive, because I don't have to get on the interstate ever. And, my life is really easy like that. But I don't necessarily recommend doing it, neither would they, while you drive. But the point was I had it with me and literally on me at all times. Most of the podcasts I filmed during 2016 and 2017 were with a roll recovery attached either to my IT band or to my calf in some form or fashion. So use it frequently, use it daily, use it all the time, but don't use that in lieu of other things. It's a supplemental thing that you can do at your desk, in the office, in the car, on the phone, killing a little time while you're waiting for your Starbucks order to be finished. I mean, it is amazing, and doing it all over town. You will make friends, influence people, and if you want to look like a real runner, show up in full dress clothes and a roll recovery, being like talking about what you did this morning. Make it a thing, make it an event. You cannot roll too much. You need to be careful, though, because there are certain parts of your body you don't want to be hitting with the roll recovery. And you know what, Sarah? This would be a great opportunity for you and I to talk about those parts in a video where we show you kind of where those nerve channels are. Don't go over bone. Don't go over joint. We can hit some of the high notes. It feels like for the cost, it's limited in use, except for the fact that you can use it everywhere you go, and a foam roller is just not that practical.
Yeah, especially not if Coach MK made you get a PVC pipe. Sure can't bring that thing everywhere. It weighs way too much to take on a plane, unfortunately.
Just saying, you can use it on your legs while waiting in line somewhere. It is weirder And you really got to be good with yourself to walk in with your PVC pipe, lay it on the floor, and start foam rolling while you're waiting for your turn in Starbucks or Target. That's just goals most people don't have. That looks like you're asking.
And you also just have to be really careful of people's toes, because you can really hurt someone. Roll recovery is where I would go instead. I got to get one of those. I've been jealous for a long time of the roll recoveries. It's on my list. Yes, let's definitely do a video where you show us that. That sounds really good.
And then you can start doing it at work in your live streams during your last few weeks at Harvard to be like, I'm just going to break all the rules, wear Bermuda shorts, and foam roll at my desk while I live stream. Thanks, Harvard.
Thanks, Harvard. I love it. All right. Next question. I've been meaning to email Coach MK per request for a podcast idea for the both of you. One idea, which is also turning into a question, I guess, is running as a master's runner. I love to run and have been blessed to be in my 4th year of running, and I'm definitely in it for the long haul. Besides focusing on strength and running easy most days, do you have anything else to add that may be beneficial for master's runners? I'm approaching 58.
Mind your joints.
Mind your joints. Okay. Should I finish reading, or are you ready to give the answer now?
Let me say what's in my head before I lose it.
Okay. Do it.
I don't like otherizing groups. I just don't. At the risk of one size fits all, which is something I'm accused of a lot, like, oh, I need something that's really tailored to me. Then you need to define those needs. I don't need to know what is or has ever been between your legs to get them to move fast. And I don't need to know what you put in your belly last night to know why you probably had a bad run this morning. When it comes to aging, we have demonized it. We have demonized our bodies instead of celebrating what they can do. And we're finding out for the first time that the limits of human endurance just do not lie where they thought they did. And we've got look at Steph Bruce. She's having her best year ever. And like, by all the old rules, like, she should have already been sent to the glue factory. Go, Steph Bruce. I can't wait to watch you continue to shine. But that's partially because of her age, and she's had children, and she's had. And one of the reasons they talk about, like, you shouldn't have babies, professional running women, is that these muscles will never be the same. Well, that's not true. They might not be exactly the same, but they'll still be pretty darn good enough to hold you upright. So as a master's runner, the hardest thing you're going to have to do is disregard all the BS you've been fed your whole life that tells you that either your gender or your age or your body is a problem. It is absolutely not. It is something to be celebrated. At the same time, there may be some limitations present that were not there before. Maybe you need a little bit more recovery time. It's not unusual for masters runners to focus more on strength work because it's osteoporosis is a thing. The older the person, the more critical strength becomes. Strength does not go away, people. If you're 30 and I'm on you for strength, imagine what I'm going to be saying when you're 70, when you're 80. If you want to keep running, and I really hope I am them, then this is going to be critical. It's a good habit to get into now so that when it increases later, you don't feel like you're paying the old age tax and you don't feel like you're being punished. So it matters for a lot of reasons. Resistance weights are really, really popular with the older crowd because of bone density. And by getting stronger, then when your muscles are stronger, your bones will respond in kind. What we need to do is make sure that we're not stressing out your joints. One of the reasons that I took a lot of plyometrics that used to exist in my plans, this would have been seen by my lifetime people more than any others, or anyone that trained with me one-on-one. I had a lot of plyo in there, and I pulled that out in the general online group programs precisely because there's a lot that goes into it. I did not have any master's level, considerably older runners in my, I had to operate on the assumption that these large online group programs would be riddled with master's runners with varying levels of joint integrity and tendon integrity. And I could not afford to put anything in there that would hurt people. So the first thing that came out was plyometrics. And I would argue really at an older age, you don't need it. There's so many risks involved with the jumps and the elastic type eccentric workouts, like the things you would do to be fast off the sprint block, the jumping rope, the dead sprinting. All of that is what I would call first. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means these are the considerations. As you get older, your body is producing less collagen. It's metabolizing it at a slower rate. So that means you might need to consume it in your diet, preferably on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. It's why everyone tells you to put collagen in your coffee. body, because you're going to absorb it the most after being in a fasted state, meaning you slept. So you slept for 8 hours. Great. You wake up, you're hungry, put collagen in your belly, and that's where the maximum absorption is going to happen. Make that a habit every morning. That is going to protect your tendons, your joints, your ligaments, and your tendons, your joints, your ligaments, and frankly, your mental health. Because it's something you can do that we know because science has told us that it works. Jell-O has been the staple for a lot of coaches and a lot of track teams for decades, and no one really had good explanations as to why. And now we do. Turns out that the coaches that have been promoting it, there were studies going on at the university about Jell-O and the collagen and the gelatin in there that was actually that had some proven benefits that provided benefits to that particular track team whose name I'm not going to say. So with that is the biggest consideration. It's what is actually happening when we age. It's a slightly slower metabolism. Sometimes with menopause will bring along hormone changes for men and for women, and those are worth paying attention to. Making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure that the things your body is doing at a reduced rate now, that we're offsetting that somehow. We're not pushing it past its limits in ways that are going to break us rather than build us. But more than anything else, you need to throw the trash aside that says you need to be handled like an egg or otherized in some way, because you're still the badass you were at 30. You just need a little more sleep, a little more collagen, and a little more strength.
Love it. Thank you for being with us, person who asked this question. I'm just going to read the last couple of lines, but I think we answered the question. She just says, so I guess I'm just wondering how differently you approach running as you get older. I enjoy listening to Meb and others who are masters, so thought it would make for a good podcast topic. I think we could do a podcast on that. Sure. Thanks for coaching and loving me. It's been a fun ride, and I'm excited to hop into a new marathon training program for my fall marathon. Yeah, us too. Speaking of fall marathons, last question. I love it. Hi, MK and Sarah. This is Emma Ross. I'll be doing my very first marathon this December at STEM. Woo! You probably know.
You're local now, Emma. Yay, you.
Yeah, she's becoming a Californian. As you probably know, I've been training with you since early 2016, and I'm wondering if a 10-week build-up to a marathon is going to be enough build-up for me, since it will be my first. Thanks.
Yeah. I think it's going to be fine. I'm not worried about it at all. I would put you on Tenacious as Fuck. So the 3 levels of marathon plan that we're going to be rolling out are what we call them: Tenacious as Fuck, Dedicated as Fuck, and Steady as Fuck. Yay! So, again, those are in draft. I need to reach out to Megan again, poor thing. I know she's had family in town, but we knew it wasn't really going to be finalized until after 4th of July weekend anyway. But yeah, if anyone needs it sooner, we will. If the 10-week marathon window is opening for you, we are totally happy to get you these documents in draft form. The page 1 will be publicly available on the website. Everything else will be behind the membership wall once these go up. But for now, I think you're going to be totally fine. People worry about mileage too much with no regard to consistency. The person who runs 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and then has a long run of 95 minutes and nothing but that for months is way ahead of the dude or woman who runs for an hour Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then a long run when they feel like it, they aim for 2 hours, but they don't really get it done. So consistency is really going to pay off in a big, big, big way here. And the reason is everyone wants to talk about mileage and muscles. No one wants to talk about the unsexy stuff. And God knows I am here for all things unsexy. I care about your tendons, your joints, your ligaments. I'm here to make sure that everything is adapted to the work that we're doing. I care more about that than about the really cool, super duper secret saucy, speed workouts. If we're talking about the plan, we are not talking about you, and you will always be more interesting to me than any plan I could possibly write. So with this in mind, you're doing all the right things now, running in the pattern that we need to run in later. So it won't be a huge transition when we start executing that 10-week plan. It won't be that different at all. It'll be sort of like, wah, wah, well, That didn't feel like very much. And I'm like, aha. And that is why it will be easy to sustain. When we're turning our life upside down, going back to what feels comfortable, and then coming back to a plan that does not feel natural, okay, or sustainable in any way, it is always going to be a mountain to climb, and with higher expectations, because it's sucking more out of you. The change is huge. It's not like an easy ramp. And when we're doing more now, then doing slightly more later is not such a big deal, because we've already staked out the real estate in our calendar. We know we're not doing anything differently the way most people do it, only coming to a coach, only joining a group training plan, only maintaining when they have something on the horizon and they're not really maintaining, they're not quite doing enough. That is a boom bust cycle that's not going to lead anywhere good. So are you going to be fine? Yeah, you are, Emma Ross. You're already doing all the right things. It's not going to be that big a deal. What's scaring you right now is the idea of a 10-week marathon plan, which is not what we do, and it's not what I sell. I sell a lifestyle and a subscription and all the support you would need that facilitates a higher base level of fitness. That means we only need 10 weeks to ramp up to a marathon. It is not a 10-week marathon plan in any way, shape, or form, because if you do what I tell you to do the way I tell you to do it, it's actually a 22-week marathon plan, which is still the wrong way to look at it. We want you to be here all the time. Once you've gotten off that ramp, that on-ramp, that 3-month on-ramp, you can go any direction you want to. You've got a lot going on. But I guarantee you, anything you're doing on your own is nowhere near the volume, the consistency, the regularity, or anything close to what we're asking you to do in Maintain. And if more seems like not fun for you, great, we've got Rebuild. It is still going to be better than what you will do untethered, coaching yourself on your own. And it has nothing to do with willpower. It has to do with being overachievers with a lot of claims on our time. And if you aren't committed to something now, then it's going to be that much harder to commit to a training plan later. And then you're going to put too much pressure on it because of all the things you said no to while you got there. We make Maintain. We give you this lifestyle. We give you this pattern. Follow the pattern, and it's not a huge disruption. When it comes to signing up for a marathon later, as opposed to having to turn your whole lifestyle upside down and demanding results that are worth all of the changes that you made to be there. It takes all the pressure off, and that's when great things happen. The score will take care of itself if you're showing up and do the fundamentals the way we tell you to.
And Emma Ross, I know you, and I know that you've been doing everything that you need to be doing to be ready to ramp up to a marathon. You've been doing everything for a long time. You moved, your life got totally turned upside down, and you did not stop running. You're here. You just ran a half marathon. You are so good.
And think about where you were a year ago. I will never, this will never not get old for me. When I think about like where I was a year ago, anytime I have a bad day, I'm like, well, this time last year, yeah, winning. That's a really easy thing to do. And this time last year, you had just made that move to California. You were still pulling things together. You still weren't quite sure what was going to happen next. Compared to a year ago, you are so much more together now that when you look at it, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Absolutely nothing. You've got more going on for you now than you did then, and you're going to get better results.
Yeah, this is so exciting. And those are all of our questions for Maintain. We have some comments in Twitch that are, I think, mostly have been addressed. Some of them were following up on that question. We incorporated those. We did have someone come in and ask, do runners do any body weight exercises to increase endurance or strictly running? To which I said the short answer is yes, absolutely. And I don't know if you want to say any more about that, but it is 8:27, which means it's 6:27 your time. So you probably got to go eat some dinner pretty soon, I'm thinking.
Well, I actually want to take that really quickly. I liked what he said about body weight exercises. Any strength and conditioning instructor that is worth their salt will tell you that first we max out what you can do with body weight before we pick up a resistance weight. And I'm very careful about who I work with and why for that reason. I tell everyone to get their strength plan from a PT for that reason. If you go into a gym, what you're basically saying is teach me how to use these weights. And then and then you're not going to want to do the things that you need to do that are going to shore you up and make you structurally, fundamentally sound before you start trying to build big muscles. Also, you're going to be giving that person in the gym different instructions than what you're giving me. You say, you come to me, I'm training for a marathon. You go to them and you say, I really want to lose weight. So you're already executing two plans at once, and that is kind of a disaster. So what I try to do with people is make sure that we are shoring you up fundamentally. I'm going to beg you to go to a PT, but I'm never going to demand it. I'm never going to force it because I can't. What I can do is work with the PT to give you a base level of body weight exercises that can be executed at home, out your office, in a cubicle, hell, in a bathroom stall. Your worst case scenario, you still get this done every day. 5 minutes is better than nothing. I feel invigorated. And hell, if you're doing them in a bathroom stall or in an office closet the way I used to, it's to make you feel a little bit invigorated because you're doing something ridiculous and breaking a rule on company time. And there's something really satisfying about that. Especially if you have a job where you have to, that infantilizes you, where I have to explain why I need to go to the doctor as though they're going to sign a permission slip. So to that effect, yes, we want to maximize what we can do with our body weight first before we pick up a resistance weight, because that is a really great way to stress out and overuse your joints by overreaching and using terrible form. I encourage good form at every turn when I do the videos and that live both on the YouTube channel and in the membership only area of the website. Form is always going to be paramount. We know, because we have direct examples of it, that you can achieve Olympic level world-class fitness without ever having to pick up in endurance events, specifically in endurance events, without ever needing to pick up a barbell or adding anything more than body weight to what you do. So with those specific examples in mind, I'm going to say you can go Google them and read the studies just like I did. You can hear all the athletes talk about it, but really at the end of the day, strength matters, and it matters a lot. If you really want to get faster, you're not going to get it through strength running type or of workouts. You're going to get it from doing the unsexy stuff that you don't want to do, the push-ups, the grabbing resistance loops, and doing eccentric walks across the room, doing bridge pose over and over, working on your TPA, recruiting and activating all of the muscles that you need to keep you upright in a fatigued state, and making sure that they're all firing without you having to think about it. So yes, it's not just, there's not just a place for it. It's fundamental and paramount to be working on body weight exercises and strength at all times, which is why it's incorporated into my plans. Anything you want to do on top of that, you are welcome to do on your own time, but nothing will ever replace the work I assign and maintain or rebuild, because that came from a physical therapist, and it's only 5 minutes long. There's no good reason to be like, well, I did an hour today, I don't have to do this. But we don't know if you hit these muscle groups. We don't know if you activated them. So just do the 5-minute workout. Yay, you.
Yay. Do it with me, because I go live and do it for you in the Facebook group every day. Do it with you.
Talk about rebellious stuff. You're doing it like on the job at Harvard, streaming and doing strength. It's kind of
I know.
Like
I just shut my door. I'm like, I'll be back in a few minutes, everybody. Yeah.
And I kind of love it. It's fun, right? I mean,
it is.
I did everything right for so long, and they still found reasons to ding me. I will never not love encouraging everyone to be a little bit rebellious at a job that doesn't give a shit about them. Go do the 5 minutes of strength on their time in their bathroom and laugh about it. It's better than smoking a cigarette when you're still living in your parents' house and they could smell it when you came back. Everybody knew what you were doing, but they weren't going to have that conversation with you about it. And there is no better way to stick it to the man than by taking care of yourself in their space.
Woo! Perfect note to end on.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Misasha. We're setting us up to have conversations about topics we don't typically find people having every day. Things that might make us feel uncomfortable about race, identity, happiness, and privilege, just to name a few.
We'll be looking at both systemic and personal biases through different lenses like history and psychology.
But why does this matter?
Because there's proof that we rise by lifting others, and we can't do it alone. We need your help. Listen in to find out how.
Well, there you go. Check out Dear White Women, a comfortable space for uncomfortable conversations about race, privilege, and parenting. New episodes drop each Wednesday on iTunes, but you can go deeper into each topic on their website, www.dearwhitewomen.com. Again, that's www.dearwhitewomen.com.